saddle up and ride. This theme or phrase connotates a sense of urgency, a sense of the time is now, and a call to action. One must then ask the question, what situation, what circumstances, what occasion demands or necessitates this urgency? What do we do when trials become manifest in the very dogma of our nation? And what is our disposition when the beautiful uniqueness of the West suddenly becomes endangered? And what do we do when the very fabric of our society begins to rip and tear at the seams, where the values of faith, family, and freedom become endangered? Martin Luther King Jr. said it best in his letter, Strength to Love, written in 1963. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. And so, my fellow Americans, is that the measure of our country, the measure of our society, and the measure of the very soul of our nation that is at stake in this time of challenge and controversy. So how will we stand? How will we embody the call of Dr. King and pursue strength and love for our fellow citizens? In our brief time together, I will attempt to lay out what I believe to be the thesis, the cornerstone, or bedrock of how to answer this question. And so my thesis is simply this: the embodiment of the values of faith, family, and freedom is paramount and necessary for American flourishing. And it's through these three values that we are able to saddle up and ride. And so it is with great honor and distinction and gratitude that I have the opportunity to address you, the American people, the great citizens across our land, and the patriots who love our country. It is without a doubt that we have come upon a pivotal time in our country, in the narrative of Lady Liberty, a threshold upon which the very notion of freedom is at stake in our homes and our places of work and worship and the communities which we love. Political division and bitter partisanship have become the foundation or the ontology for which we hold disdain for our neighbors. And so as nighttime so earnestly yearns for the morning, so does our country so earnestly yearn for reconciliation amongst party, societal, racial, and reconciliation lines. And so that is why I have hope for this beautiful nation. I have hope that we can come together and truly flourish. And with God as our guide, America may truly thrive and prosper. And so it becomes necessary to break down these three values of freedom that are worth standing for, protecting and guarding. So when future Americans read about this period in time, this chapter in American history, it can be said that Americans saddled up and rode into uncharted territory of American flourishing. So first value in our triune approach is that of faith. Faith in God, faith in a capital H, His providence and sovereignty over our nation, and faith in the gospel of Christ. Whether you lean left or right of the aisle, it is evident that our country runs best and is apt to flourishing when citizens abide by a moral order and live into and press into the intrinsic values and dignity afforded to us by God Himself. For we are all made in the image of God. And it's in that doctrine of the Imago Dei that frees us to serve other people and pursue the other. I want to pose the question: how different would faith in America look if we as citizens recognized, affirmed, and treated people with the dignity and the idea that we are all made in the image of Christ? And because of His sacrifice, we're able to participate freely in the larger gospel narrative. How radical would it be if peoples across our lands served their fellow man? When people live into grace, live with harmony, and radical reconciliation, forgiveness for their fellow Americans, this country will truly thrive with God's blessing. This faith, this protection, standing up for the gospel, standing up for a capital T, truth, is worth fighting for. And as our country moves away from God and the gospel, our country suffers. But don't take my word for it. Ronald Reagan once famously said, Without God, there is no virtue, because there is no prompting of the conscience. Without God, there is a coarsening of society. Without God, democracy will not and cannot endure. If we ever forget that we are one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under. The embodiment of this value of faith is necessary for American flourishing and is necessary to saddle up and ride. The second value that demands attention is that of family. The family unit is the rudder that guides the individual, the community, and society as a whole. The American family has been and is the cornerstone of our culture. Winston Churchill put it like this: there is no doubt that it is around the family and the home that all the greatest values, the most dominating virtues of humankind, are created, strengthened, and maintained. Similarly, Charmaine Yost, PhD at the Institute of Family Research at the Heritage Foundation, claimed, "The American family is the single most important factor in the upward mobility of children in our culture. Family is a gift from God, and it is worth fighting for." The notion of family is personal for me. Born in Eastern Europe in Bulgaria, I was put up for adoption and suffered through circumstances that no child should ever have to endure, including, but not limited to, neglect and abuse in different forms. But by the providence of God, I was adopted and moved to the States 21 years ago and was blessed with this incredible family and incredible support. It's personal. And so my story is a testament to why fighting for and standing for the family unit is imperative to the success and flourishing of our country. We cannot do it alone. I'm well aware that families across our nation are broken, hurting, and in need. And the evil depravity of torn familial lines pulls on my heartstrings, on the heartstrings of those around our country. Every child needs a home. Every child needs loving parents. And when the family succeeds, so goes society. The breakdown of the institution of marriage and of the family leads to decays of values and to decays of the American family. We as a nation must strive to protect our children, born and unborn. We must enact policies that promote and incentivize traditional family structure. We must protect this fragile pillar of American society. The value of family is necessary for American flourishing, and it is necessary to saddle up and ride. So we've considered the value of faith, the value of family, and lastly, we'll consider the value of freedom on our journey of exploring what it means to saddle up and ride. The famous words declared of our independence read, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Liberty, God-ordained liberty, is what sets us apart as a nation from the rest of the world. Liberty is the life raft for the destitute, the broken-spirited, and the refugee. America is a place of opportunity, freedom, and the opportunity to pursue one's dreams. America is the greatest experiment in world history, and we have been marked by God with grace and freedom, and we must never forget these truths. Our country today stands at the precipice of tyranny, the precipice of a new identity marked by terror and fear. Thomas Jefferson once claimed, "Timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the tempestuous sea of liberty." That being the exercise of absolute power marked by the removal of liberty and the institution and ushering in of oppression and marginalization of those with individual ideals and values that differ from society. May that never be true of us in America. We cannot truly flourish, we cannot truly saddle up if we are no longer a nation marked by liberty. Life is worth fighting for. It must be cherished, nurtured, and protected by our fellow citizens. So I implore you to take an honest inventory of our society today and to humbly take a stand for what is right and what is true. The loss of liberty and freedom is only one generation away. Only one. God gave us the gift of liberty. We must steward it well and work hard with convicted civility and confidence to return to the ways of liberty and to strive for the restoration of our society before it's too late. Liberty. Lady Liberty. She is worth protecting, guarding, and fighting for. And with this assurance, we can have confidence that one day the hallowed words in our declaration will ring true once again. This third value of freedom is necessary for American flourishing and is necessary to saddle up and ride. So as we draw to a close, we've considered the values of faith, the value of family, and the value of freedom, and how these three values serve as the bedrock, as the ontological foundation from which American flourishing takes place. So friends, as we go back to Dr. King's challenge, how will America be measured in these times of challenge and of adversity? There is a sense of urgency that is demanded. And so to repeat my thesis, the embodiment of the values of faith, family, and freedom is paramount and necessary for American flourishing. And it's through these three values that we're able to saddle up and ride. May God bless you, and may God bless these United States of America.